I wanted to go back to Albion Online because it's a game I've enjoyed in a weird kind of a way for quite some time. It was one of the first MMOs I got into, and I'm not really a PvP kind of a player. I just don't want to do the competitive guild stuff. I don't really want to do full loot PvP because it just kind of feels stressful and obnoxious in the context of Albion Online. So, in many ways, you could say it's not really my kind of game. And yet, what I really love is the way the game is a simulation. It's not just a theme park where there's not really any consequences to anything. That's what's pretty cool about Albion Online. Every resource you gather has a monetary value and exists in a real functioning market economy. Everything that players create, weapons that they forge, are ultimately going to be used, reused, stolen, looted, broken, dispersed into loot chests around the world, dropped by mobs. It's just pretty cool what has been done to create a realistic economy in Albion Online. And I know it's been done in Eve Online as well, but I'm more into the fantasy kind of a vibe of a game rather than the spaceship flying around sort of a game. Eve Online sounds cool until you play it and you start to realize it's kind of just kind of alienating to be playing a game where you're just out in the blackness of space. It doesn't really feel so immersive as a fantasy environment. And I also like that theme of kind of comparing maybe your character in a game to some of the things you might learn in real life, because there is sort of a case of art imitating life, where the stuff that you would maybe do in a game to be successful, or maybe lessons you would learn from a game, you could also apply in real life. Anyways, enough of that. But I recently just got a new phone. For a while, I did not have a good cell phone. I just kind of saved money and got the super cheap phone, which worked. But then I thought, I do want to have the new phone. And so I went and I got that. So now, once again, I can play games on my phone if I want to. And so that's another reason for enjoying Albion Online. I can play Albion Online, I can play Genshin Impact, both quite well on a cell phone. And that's really cool to be able to play a good quality game that's an actual PC game and have cross platform functions that you can use on your phone or on your PC. That's pretty cool and great. If I happen to be, traveling or in a hotel room or not at home, then I can do a little bit of light gaming just to enjoy and unwind without needing to necessarily have a laptop or something with me all the time. Anyways, I've been watching episodes of The Crown today. That's the television show about Queen Elizabeth, who had a long and successful reign as Queen of the United Kingdom. And the part I was watching today is about Prince Charles, who would become King Charles, and his relationship with Camilla and Princess Diana. And it all wound up to be a thing where Charles loved Camilla and he did not really love Princess Diana. And they had this unsuccessful marriage, which ultimately ended, and it was a sad sort of a thing. But I think it's interesting how, like, when you look at the show, it really does a good job of portraying both sides of the relationship. It portrays kind of in a sympathetic way, not necessarily making excuses, but just acknowledging, what it is that, made the different people do what they did. And in life, it's so true that we can easily blame people and we can say, someone is good or bad or whatever. But the reality is, people have reasons for what they do. And even if we are tempted to judge people for their actions, the truth is that folks have their reasons. They have their own rationale for the cause they have for what they're doing. And it's not really so much that anyone gets up in the morning and tries to make someone's day rough or bad or something. It's just sometimes we hurt each other because we're human and we have different perspectives and we don't communicate very well, and we have internal conflicts and so many different things going on. And then there's also the passive manipulation when you wind up in a situation where someone is there to kind of maybe give you security, but it comes at the cost of liberty. And that's exemplified in the case of a royal family, if you think about it. You're born into the family that will be the lineage of the king or queen of the kingdom. And so, in a way, you have this amazing heraldry, you have this amazing heritage to call your own. You can brag of it, you can show it off. People will give you special treatment, probably. And yet, there's also this decorum, there's this rule set that you're subjected to. And if you're born into that, then maybe you do have a lot of privilege that a normal person wouldn't have, but you also have a lot of a loss of ability to be true to yourself first and foremost. So instead of saying, well, what's right for me, I'm going to do it, you kind of have to play second fiddle to what someone else is going to tell you you have to do. And that can be a really stifling, difficult thing to navigate when everyone's eyes are on you and you don't necessarily feel like you have any autonomy or power. You're just very visible and also kind of invisible all at the same time. And it's kind of interesting how that works, because probably it's the same thing with a lot of things, like maybe wealth, for example. If you tried to say that it's not easy to be rich, well, I mean, that's kind of weird to say that, because everybody wants to be rich. But then the truth of the matter is that maybe it's not easy, because people are watching you. People's eyes are on you. You can't just, be true to yourself in the same way that you would want to. And that's hard. But then I also think about how important it is to walk away from things, like if you're in a situation where you can't really be true to yourself and you feel like you're stifled and you can't really be there for the person you love, or you can't really choose your own direction in life because someone's always there to choose it for you. It's so important to be able to just walk out the door and say, I'm done. I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to be part of a system that's going to place its interests over me being true to my spirit or true to my heart or true to the people that matter in my life. And there's so many cases like that where maybe a boss will try to get somebody to do certain things, and it's like, well, you gotta work extra hours. You're a manager or whatever, so you got to do this, right? And then, like, I guess you're just not going to spend time with your wife or whatever, right? And then you're in that situation where maybe, a marriage doesn't work out or something, because you have to make a decision. You have to be there for, that person who's got leverage to tell you, well, you've got to do what's right for the business, or you've got to fall in line with what our expectations are for you. And that's a really sad place to be, to realize that you spent your life being so focused on being conforming to the system that you didn't actually live a life of your own. And I think about how important it is when you go through life and you get to the end, that you can look over your life and say, I had ups and downs, and there's tragic things, there's sad things, there's joyous things. But ultimately, I know that the things that I chose to do in my life were my own choice. It was my own direction that I followed. It wasn't someone else telling me where to be, what to do, what priorities to set, what jobs to take, what people to love, etc., etc. The more people control you, the less satisfied you'll be with your life, because it's not that your life will be bad. It's just you'll always know in the back of your mind that no matter what happens in your life, it wasn't truly your own life. It was that you were a shell. You were sort of a puppet for somebody else. And it's kind of like being a dog. Like, maybe you're taken good care of as a dog. Maybe you don't have to worry about where your next meal is going to come from. Maybe you're going to be taken to the vet if you get sick, and you're not going to have to worry about that so much. And maybe you're going to live longer than a wild animal would. But if you have that wolf in you, then maybe you do hear the call of the wild, and you think, I have to go heed the call of the wild things that are out there calling and beckoning. You have to heed the call. You can't just say, well, I'm going to always choose the safe, warm, comfortable hearth, and I'm never going to go out there and see what's beyond. Because if you never find out, if you never venture, if you always just linger in the shadow of people who have an agenda for you, who have a plan for you, that's a sad existence. And quite often bad things happen in our lives, I think, with our relationships and stuff. And it's not just because we have failed. It's also because we've been in an environment where there's other people who passively are happy when we fail. Because if we fail, then they can essentially buy stock in our person at a discount. It's like, if you wanted to buy stock in a company and then the company had bad news, then that would be great for you if you were hoping to buy, right? It's the same thing, as long as you are not pursuing your own destiny and you're just following along in the train of somebody else, then, you'll never find out what you could do or what the path could lead you to. And folks who selfishly want to help you will always try to help you, but they will try to also control you. And every act of help will come at the passive cost of your autonomy, your freedom, your liberty, your ability to think for yourself and to do things which truly bring meaning and value into your life. And that's just not right, you know. Whether it's a job or being born into royalty or whatever it might be, it's important to be able to have self-determination in your life, you know. Like I opened this video talking about how I liked Albion Online more than other games, and in some ways, and why I keep coming back to it and never really completely abandon the game, despite things I don't like about it, you know. It's kind of interesting how just the fact that the world feels like it has consequence behind it kind of is meaningful, right? You know, and it's kind of that's kind of a good allegory, I think, right there. You know, you might appreciate the safety of a theme park, the safety of something where, you know, there is no person who wins at the expense of someone else. Everyone's kind of the same, in the same situation as everyone else, and there's not really any consequences and things like that's nice. The more Care Bear situation is nice. I mean, that's why I play some games I play, because they're chill and they're relaxing and stuff, you know. But then I also think about how nice it is when you can know that the things that you've done have brought you to where you are. You know, there's a true sense of consequence that, you know, if you don't take a lot of risk, then you don't have as much of a reward, or maybe if you do take a bigger risk, maybe you do get a better reward. And you know, in the end, you can't really blame anyone else for it other than yourself. But it makes for a more interesting life, certainly, when you are living it on a basis of knowing that you are the chooser of your destiny. And maybe you choose a quiet, peaceful, easy life, or maybe you choose a more dangerous, risky path. But whatever you choose, it's your choice. It's not someone else's who made it for you. That's important to be able to say that you have chosen the life that you have. In any case, as always, best of luck on your adventure, whatever paths you choose. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.